All right, welcome back to another episode of the Speak Truth Sports podcast. As always, I am Bert and I'm joined by
Trey as usual.
and today we're just gonna cover all the NFL free agency craziness that's been going on the past couple of days. Free agency actually technically hasn't started yet. This is kind of like a handshake, like agreement type of thing. But these moves will happen once free agency does start. But none of these signings are technically official. Just putting that out there. Uh, So if you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy sports news and covering sports topics and debating and all that stuff, go ahead and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Speak Truth Sports. If you're listening on any type of podcasting app, please give us a like, a follow, share us if you can. It would really help us a lot. It would help us grow. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell, like, comment, do all that good stuff. But let's just jump right into everything that's going on. So the Patriots made a lot of moves. They're kind of the talk of this free agency. What do you think about the Patriots moves? I know you have a list of them, don't you? All right, go
So
ahead.
the Patriots signed former tight end Geno Smith to a 4-year deal for $50 million. They signed former Chargers tight end Hunter Henry to a 3-year deal for $37.5 million. Ravens former linebacker Matt Judon, that's 4 years, $56 million. Eagles former safety / corner, that is Jalen Mills, to 4 years and $24 million. Former Raiders wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, 2-year deal for $26 million. Former 49ers wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, I think they signed him to 3 years and $22.5 million. They acquired Raiders offensive tackle Trent Brown through trade. They signed a Dolphins nose tackle also to 2 years. So they made a lot of moves. I think there's still some more, actually. I think there's one more. I think it's defensive end Henry Anderson also. They signed him today.
Did you also mention? I think it's Justin Bethel.
Well, he got re-signed.
Oh yeah, he got re-signed. But yeah, they did get a lot of players. How do you feel about this? Because I know there's Patriots fans are going crazy right now. Patriots fans they're going crazy because Bill Belichick just woke up and just chose free agency. But
Yeah.
what do you feel about these moves? Do these moves help make the Patriots get back into the playoffs?
I mean, it's to answer the question as simply as possible. Yes, it's the most simple answer to say it. Just yes. Last season this team kind of played with the bare minimum of pertaining to their offensive weapons. Their receivers put up league lows in receptions, touchdowns, and yards. Cam Newton had to deal with COVID, and when he came back, he just didn't play the same way he did. And then in his absence, Brian Hoyer and Stidham did play, and they both struggled tremendously. When you look at the receiving core, it was when Edelman went down, the receiving core essentially became a joke. The best receiver was Jacoby Myers, who literally had more passing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns. N'Keal Harry never stepped up to the expectation of a first-round wide receiver. And think on the defensive side as well. Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung both opted out, and both of these players are core players to their defensive play. Hightower is definitely one of their core linebackers, so that's why they saw a definite decrease in the quality of their defense this year. Also, think about the players who did play, such as Stephen Gilmore. He dealt with COVID and injuries all season, and he is their best corner. They might end up shipping him out this offseason. That's something to look out for, possibly. But the Patriots came into the season with the most opt-outs. I think they had 8. And that played a big factor in why they struggled so much and had a 7-9 season. But even in that bad 7-9 season, they ended up with a decent record without so many pieces. Now them signing a tight end and tight ends within Hunter Henry and Smith, that kind of fixed the immediate issue at the tight end position because Virginia Tech's own Dalton Keene was not very, good as a tight end for the Patriots, and other Patriots tight ends, I really couldn't tell you who they were. with Janu Smith, the good thing about him is he's a good red zone option. He had 8 receiving touchdowns as a tight end, which I think that was more within the Patriots had passing touchdowns all season. Hunter Henry is a top 10 tight end, so that's obviously going to address that immediately. The dude has hands. Them signing receivers, Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. I wasn't the craziest about both of these signings, but now when I think about it with context, Nelson Aguilar, he revitalized his career with the Raiders. So he's not a bad receiver anymore. He's not the one from Philadelphia who couldn't even catch a cold. We're talking about a better receiver who can, actually catch, and he's capable of being their receiver number one, because Edelman to me is definitely past his prime. So I probably see him as receiver number 2 if healthy. Kendrick Bourne would be a good receiver number 3. He's good with short routes. He's a good third down option. On the defensive side, I think Judon definitely strengthens the team's pass rush, which was much needed for the team. They always can use more players to help aid their defense, because a lot of it, they kind of put a lot of pressure on their DBs, because J.C. Jackson is, as many interceptions as he had, he also did get burnt a lot. So there's a lot of pressures on the secondary. So them getting Judon would definitely be very helpful and help strengthen that linebacking core with Dante Hightower back. So I like all these signings so far. The only signing I'm not too sure about was Jalen Mills. He was he grew a pretty bad reputation of getting burnt a lot. And I know Eagles fans are probably very aware of that, and they weren't very, very high on Jalen Mills at times. But we did see Ronald Darby recover from that same issue after he was a Philadelphia Eagle, and when he went to the Washington football team, he played arguably his best season, and now he secured the bag with the Broncos. So maybe we can see Jalen Mills also recover like Darby did in a new scenery. So a lot of these signings, it definitely pushes the needle in the right direction. And now we'll see what a healthy Cam can do with a healthy, good offense now that he has weapons.
I'm not as high as you are. I'm gonna tentatively say no. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs next year. And this is all I like generally the moves they made. I think they overpaid for a lot of their players, which is why they got them so early. They immediately snatched them up because they paid them a little bit more than they're worth. Uh, Especially Matt Judon. But at the same time, Belichick, he does help revive careers or just bring the best out of a lot of his guys. My question is, which Cam Newton are they going to get? Are they going to get post-COVID Cam Newton or pre-COVID Cam Newton? If they get post-COVID Cam Newton, they probably will barely even hit 8 wins at most, in my opinion. If they get post-COVID, or sorry, pre-COVID Cam Newton, they could go as high as maybe 10 or 11 wins, in my opinion. But I don't think that makes playoffs in the AFC. This isn't a slight on the Patriots necessarily. This is because the AFC is just so stacked. I mean, all the playoff teams this year, they all had double-digit wins, and I believe the lowest amount of wins was I believe it was 12, right? Or was it 11 by the Browns?
I thought it was 10. 10-6 was the
Was it
lowest, I
10?
thought.
Well, either way, still double-digit wins, which is very hard to achieve in a season in general in football. And all those teams were very good and all competing within their conferences. Also, the Patriots conference it's gotten a lot harder. The Jets are actually making moves for once. The Bills they're doing okay. They just signed Emmanuel Sanders as of earlier today. And it's harder for the Patriots to win their division. I'd say the Bills are probably going to take it, and so they'd have to go for a wild card. But there's a lot of teams gunning for the wild card. There's the Ravens, Steelers, Browns. Any of those teams could take up the wild card. And there's also still the Colts, who are being slept on. If the Colts can get Trent Williams somehow, if they can snag him away from the Niners, I mean, Carson Wentz is probably never going to even feel the grass for the entire season. He's probably gonna have a single stain on his jersey for the entire season. So there's just so many good teams in the AFC. I don't think the Patriots make it, but I think this is a good step towards it. Something else that also concerns me is just Cam Newton's accuracy in general. He's a very good rusher. He's kind of like a little bit of a Lamar Jackson, but he's kind of been less accurate as of late. Um, this is a very strange stat, but did you know the Patriots actually have the third highest average yard of separation for their wide receiver core from last year? They had the
I
third
heard about that.
highest. They had the third highest average yard of separation, 3.7, which is right behind the Packers and the Chiefs. And they still couldn't really, Cam couldn't get him the ball like that. What's funny about that is actually Washington's tied with them at three, with 3.7. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I just think that number is really concerning to me. This all just relies on Cam Newton and how far he can bring this team. And I don't want to say they don't have a chance, but it's going to be very, very difficult in that stacked AFC.
My thing with Cam Newton is arguably one of the most disrespected players in the NFL right now. There's kids saying this man is a bum because he's a free agent, that he's poor. They're saying a lot of random things. And Cam Newton was once an MVP. I think Cam Newton, I'm not saying he will go back to his MVP level, but I think that he's more than capable than bringing a team like this to the playoffs. He is their best quarterback. When people were complaining that, oh, Cam Newton got stuck at the Patriots, he's so bad. Did you not watch Jared Stidham last season? In the moments he played, did you not watch Brian Hoyer against the Chiefs, if I recall correctly? He was atrocious. Just admit the facts. Cam Newton was the best quarterback for the Patriots in that awful, awful offense they had. I'm saying this. There is hope for them. I can see this because, for me, I think the Dolphins overachieved last season. As I think they did. I don't know how Tua's going to play as the full-on starter this season. I'm not the most confident in him. I'm not going to go on the hate tirade that everyone's been going on because it seems like a lot of people have been disrespecting Tua as well. But Cam Newton, I think that he can make it past. I think he can make it past, the Dolphins this season. I think they can do more. I'm not saying, they're going to be a contender. I think that they can make it out of the AFC East with, I'm thinking, hopefully maybe 9 to 10 wins. I'm not going anything higher than 10 wins for the Patriots, but I do see, with all these players opting back in, with all these other receivers are getting, because think about it, they also had a receiver opt out, Marquise Lee, and Marquise Lee wasn't bad when he was with the Jaguars. So I can see, with all these weapons, if they don't make the playoffs, it is Cam. Because you have Bill Belichick as your head coach. Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick's son's a good defensive coordinator. They have the people. They have the personnel. They have the tools. It's just up to Cam. And I think Cam can do it this season. He's healthy.
So we both kind of agree that, at their best, they're probably going to be around the 10-win range. And so where we kind of disagree is, will 10 wins get you into the playoffs in the AFC? And so I'm on the no train. You probably need at least 11. Aren't they extending the regular season in this upcoming
The 17
season?
games, yes.
Yep. So it's 10 wins is kind of going to be more like 9 now. So, I still don't think it's going to be enough for them to make it. Their talent it's gotten much better. This team has completely changed overnight, straight up. But I mean, like I said, there's just so many good teams in the AFC. I could totally see them like just barely missing out, like just being on the wild card bubble, kind of like the Dolphins were this last year. And speaking of the Dolphins, you did bring up that you think Tua is a little overrated, didn't you?
So I think he's a little disrespected.
Okay. But you wouldn't say he's as good as the guy we're about to talk about, would you? Or at least he
Tua is
wasn't
better.
last year.
I think Tua is better than this individual.
Really?
That might be a hot take, but I'm not super fond of what we're going to talk about next.
Well, let's stop beating around the bush. Let's just jump right into Ryan Fitzpatrick. He has signed with the Washington football team. How far can Ryan Fitzpatrick take this team? You're a football team fan, so
if you look at the dictionary and look up the word indifferent, my face would be on there right now. I'm very indifferent about this signing. I've seen a lot of people praise this signing. I've seen a handful of people hate this signing. I don't know how to feel. I don't know if I'm gonna get Ryan Fitzpatrick or Ryan Fitzmagic. I'm very I'm not in love with the signing. To me, it took the easy way and the easy route. I guess he was, the best option they had in the free agency kind of pool. Obviously it's a very temporary, and he is kind of like a transitional quarterback because he signed a 1-year deal for $10 million. It can go up to $12 million with $2 million in incentives. With that said, him being paid $10 million, that means that they're probably going to try to play the whole season, through him. And he's going to probably have to start the whole season because you don't pay a dude 1 year, $10 million to sit him on the bench. You just don't do that. $10 million, that's a decent amount of money to put out for to bench a quarterback, you know what I'm saying? So this is a slight upgrade over Taylor Heinicke and Kyle Allen. But I was kind of hoping for a more long-term kind of signing or long-term kind of, move for them at quarterback. Because, I know I'm not the biggest fan of this individual, but I wouldn't have been too mad if they traded for Sam Darnold, if they traded away maybe second or third round pick for Sam Darnold. I would have been okay with that. He's a young quarterback. He's a lot of upside. We don't know how he'll really play. He played under a bad coach in Adam Gase. He's kind of athletic, not too much. I'm not gonna say he's out here gonna be juking people out, but he can make some moves. He can run the ball if necessary. But them getting Ryan Fitzpatrick, to me, some people have said it's seen as a win now kind of move. When you look at the stats that the Washington football team is a whole passed for, it was 3,631 passing yards, 15 passing touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. That's the combined stats between Kyle Allen, Taylor Heinicke. I think it was also Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith. So, combined stats together, it was not very impressive. We've seen, Ryan Fitzpatrick have better seasons than that as a whole. There was also another stat I found, against the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles in 2019, he put up 673 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception on 63% completion, and he had 104 passer rating. But that looks nice on paper but put in context, he went 1-2 in those games, with the only win being against the Eagles. In a Dallas loss that he didn't really play that many snaps. He only completed 2 passes. He only attempted 2 passes as well. But I'm not the biggest fan. I don't know what impact he'll have. Like I said, you just don't know what you'll get from him because sometimes he'll go on a winning streak and he looks so good. Like when he was the Buccaneers quarterback for a little bit, the first few games, he was cooking. He had back-to-back 400 passing yard games and won. But then they started losing. And then they're like, oh, well, obviously Jameis Winston's our quarterback. Once he started losing, we don't have that option to fall back on, like, oh, hey, Taylor Heinicke's our guy. Like, I don't want that to be our fallback option. And I don't want it to come to that. But with Fitzpatrick, I don't know because that is an option if he starts playing bad. So
Look, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to lead the Washington football team to the playoffs and a divisional win. Mark my words, my guy. Yo, I know he's kind of been up and down his whole career, but last year was actually fantastic for his career in general. He had his second highest passer rating ever last year of his career. And let's be real, like when you watch the games, Ryan Fitzpatrick was the one that gave them the best opportunity to win most of the time. Usually when they won, if you just kind of look at, okay, the game's 2 has started, did they win or not? If you just kind of look at it, on the surface, you'll see that Tua Khan started a lot of games that they won, but he didn't finish all of them. And in fact, he didn't even play that well in all of them. A lot of them, the defense kind of carried them to a win, and Tua was just kind of doing dump offs. Ryan Fitzpatrick, with this Washington team, he will lead y'all to the playoffs. I guarantee it. It is a guarantee. That I love this signing. He's a fantastic dude. He graduated from Harvard. All right. he's an intelligent dude. And he's a good guy in general. And especially if you guys could, if a quarterback maybe falls to, I believe, what pick do you guys have? Is it the 19th?
The 19th. Mm-hmm.
If a quarterback falls to the 19th, maybe if you snag him up, he could be a very good mentor, or even just to Taylor Heineke, he could be a very good mentor. He's a guy who's not going to cause any problems in the locker room. He's a fantastic dude, and he's going to hit your open players. He's going to hit your open players. Devontae Parker had his best games when Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing. I had Devontae Parker in my fantasy team. And every single time they had Tua starting, I took him out of the lineup because I knew he wasn't going to get his points. He wasn't going to get targeted as much. He wasn't going to get those deep shots he likes to get sometimes. And he wasn't going to get touchdowns. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. Ryan Fitzpatrick, you'll notice that when they kind of realized the game was close and they wanted to win the game, the Dolphins would sub out Tua and they'd put in Ryan Fitzpatrick because he gave them the best shot. And everybody's familiar with that famous, like, literally no look pass where he got hit in the face and threw the pass to win the game, basically. This man is a legend. He's a walking legend coming off one of the best years of his career. Look, he's going to lead y'all to the playoffs. You can mark it down right here. I promise you. He will lead y'all to the playoffs.
Yeah, this legend. Let me tell you this legend's overall quarterback record. It's 59, 86, and 1. All right. If he's
tell me the teams he's played on. He's played on a lot of bad teams.
He has played on a lot of bad teams, but he's also played on teams that had potential to be good, but he was bad. He sold when he got a lot of money. He sold a lot. For me, how I see this, he'll bring the team to 7-9 again, or 8-8. Or if you put in the context of next season when they have 17 games, 8-9 and 9-8. I don't see him. I just don't.
Look. You're underrating your own team at this point because your defense is so good. All you need from your offense is just maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns a game. That's it. Like, that's all you guys need because your defense can just carry the load for most of the game. And Haskins wasn't really giving you that. Kyle Allen wasn't really giving you that. Heineke kind of gave you that in the playoffs, but can he keep it up for a whole season? I don't know. That's to be seen. But Ryan Fitzpatrick will give you that. He'll probably turn the ball over sometimes, sure. But in that same vein, the defense is so good that it can make up for it. The defense was very good in Miami, and they still won a lot of those games where he had a bunch of turnovers. And so in that same vein, I'm thinking that, it's okay if he gets a couple interceptions here and there. At least he's taking deep shots. A lot of your quarterbacks last year didn't take any type of deep shots, and it really hurt Terry McLaurin's numbers, and I believe it also hurt Cam Sims' numbers. Just in general, Heineke was kind of that first dude to start taking deep shots, and it was in the playoffs. And you guys almost beat the team that went on to win the Super Bowl. You guys almost stopped Tom Brady in the first round of the playoffs because a quarterback of yours finally threw it deep. Your quarterbacks have been dumping the ball off way too much, dumping more than like a dumpster, like a dumpster into a waste bin, like straight up. Like, you guys need someone to take deep shots, need someone to take risks and just go for it. A lot of quarterbacks have just been playing too safe. That's not you. You can win games by playing it safe, but you can't play winning football by just playing it safe the entire time. Even Tom Brady takes risks. Even he throws it deep, and he's known for taking a lot of those short passes and like killing you, like death by 1,000 cuts. He's known for that, and even he takes deep shots. So, I mean, just the fact that you guys need someone to do that, need someone to just energize the offense and feel like they have a chance. Even if he throws a couple picks here and there, so what? Let it be. He'll still possibly throw a game-winning touchdown in the very end. You want him as the quarterback in the very final minutes to lead your team down the field, as opposed to someone like a Kyle Allen who's just going to make a couple of dump-off passes. If you have like 10 seconds left and you need someone to you need a touchdown, I'd much rather rely on Ryan Fitzpatrick than even Taylor Heineke or Kyle Allen or Dwayne Haskins, who's already off the team. He's long gone, whatever. But he's just a much better option for that. And genuinely, I'm going to guess you guys are going to win somewhere between 8 to 10 games straight up. That's my prediction right there. It's a bold one, but I'm taking it. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to change your team, man.
My issue with, okay, there's something I want to clarify. The reason why we didn't throw deep balls is because our offensive coordinator, Scott Turner, I don't think he has it in his playbook to open it up like that. Like what he did with Taylor Heineke is because he opened up the playbook and they've kind of catered more to his play style.
It's because Heineke could throw those. He knew like they kind of had to also to win that game, but he also knew Heineke had the ability to throw it deep.
Well, but
Kyle Allen he can't really throw it deep accurately.
No, he can't.
Dwayne Haskins can't either. And Alex Smith, I love him to death, but he's not a great deep ball thrower either.
Haskins can throw deep. He just couldn't throw accurate. And that was his thing. He didn't have a good work ethic to even work on it as well. But it's just like Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's everything that Ron Rivera kept saying. We want a winning culture. We want, I'm looking for a more mobile quarterback. This is the opposite of everything he said. He has a quarterback with a losing record. He has a quarterback who can he's not that good of a runner. Okay, yeah, in 2019, he led the Dolphins in rushing yards, but they had less than 500 rushing yards. Their best rusher had less than 500, and that was him. The team had no running back, no good running back that season. So, okay, I can see maybe trying to say he's so good, he's clutch. He's so clutch. Why is he on his 9th team, bro? He keeps getting moved around because he cannot do the job.
He has the ability to be clutch, and that's much more that anybody else in your team has right now. He's the only one who I would trust on your quarterback in terms of your quarterback trio that you got right now. He's the only one I would trust in the last seconds of the game to throw a touchdown.
He has capability, but not the ability. The ability is consistency. He is consistently inconsistent. And that is my thing with him. That's my concern with him. But I'll say this signing for me is mainly contingent on how they fill certain positions. If they can fill up the cornerback, linebacker, and the wide receiver position during the offseason, via draft, via trade, via free agency, then I'll be more okay with this, because they did lose, like I said, they did lose Ronald Darby to the Broncos, and I think they let a linebacker, Kevin Pierre-Louis, go to the Texans, if I recall correctly. So they need to strengthen their strengths. They have to build up on the defense just in case the offense doesn't do it this year. They have to get another linebacker. That's a must. That's an absolute must. And they need another corner on the other side of Kendall Fuller. That's an absolute must. Now, with Ryan Fitzpatrick signed, maybe this kind of takes pressure off them to draft a quarterback first round, because there's obviously talking about Mac Jones, talking about Trey Lance. I think the GM and all those guys went to Trey Lance's pro day actually this past few weeks. How I'm looking at it, I'm thinking Patrick Surtain, the second from Alabama, the cornerback, he'll be really good person to draft. Also the linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think he'll be pretty good from he's from Notre Dame. He's a linebacker. I think he'll be really good. I think those are two kind of picks they can kind of do now and have more certainty, because that is one thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is bringing stability to the quarterback position, unlike last season when we've seen 3 to 4 quarterbacks switch in and out. It was ridiculous at certain points, but that's because due to injury, and then Dwayne Haskins just not playing well. Taylor Heineke played the fourth quarter of the Panthers game. This does bring stability. I'll say that. That is one thing I can certainly say. That Ryan Fitzpatrick stays fairly healthy. So this brings stability to him. Knock on wood, hopefully he's going to stay healthy this season too.
it also brings energy, bro. You guys have so many underutilized and underrated weapons on your offense. Antonio Gibson's actually really good. Logan
Mm-hmm.
Thomas he's going to enter, I believe, his second year, right? Or is this his
His,
third?
sec- his second year as a Washington
Second
football
year.
player, yeah.
Tight ends always pop off in their second year. Their first year, they're trying to get adjusted physically. The second year, so Logan Thomas is going to come in at the tight end position, be very solid. Terry McLaurin, we know Terry McLaurin. He's fantastic. Cam Sims is a little bit underrated. If you guys slide in another wide receiver, I think if you give Ryan Fitzpatrick all these weapons, hey, man, this is one of the first times in his career he's had this many weapons. And we'll see what he can do. I honestly, I don't care if he throws 10 interceptions and only like 20 touchdowns, because you know what? Gibson's good enough to get you, I'd say, maybe like 10 touchdowns if they utilize him properly. 10 touchdowns in the season. You know, Gibson's good enough. He can also catch the ball really well. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's in a playhouse right now with all these weapons that have been underutilized, that nobody else has touched, that he can just come in there. He can help mold this offense into its fullest potential. Of course, I'm not saying he doesn't throw any type of interceptions. He will. Sometimes he'll maybe even throw you out of games if he's on a particularly bad day. But the peaks with Ryan Fitzpatrick are higher than any of the peaks that you could have gotten from any of these other quarterbacks. And genuinely, a lot of games last year, you guys straight up lost just because you could not score. That's
Yeah.
not a concern with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He can lead you to a score. The concern is, will he turn it over while he does it? And with all these weapons, and with the stat I brought up earlier, with Washington is tied for having the highest average yards of separation from their receivers. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be thrown to a lot of open dudes if that stat keeps up, if it holds up. And so his turnovers are going to go down, in my opinion. Or at least they're not going to look as bad as his previous years have. Look, I'm making another prediction right here. I think this is going to be his best year in terms of passer rating in his entire career. I think it's coming here. Ryan Fitzpatrick is taking y'all to the promised land, not the Super Bowl, but he'll take you to the playoffs, and he'll at least get your guys some more experience in there, and he'll make you feel like you have a chance. This is hope, man. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a ray of hope on this franchise right now at quarterback, because y'all have like no other plan for the most part.
Listen, like I said, this signing is contingent on what they do in the offseason. Now, you're talking about the wide receiver position. That is still, besides McLaurin, that's probably our weakest position on offense. Either that or offensive line. Offensive line has been doing better, but the receiver position is pretty weak. I think we need a receiver, wide receiver 2. If we can get Curtis Samuel from the free agency, that would be kind of nice. If they draft the receiver, I think signing Ryan Fitzpatrick does make them more open to signing other pieces to put around them. I'm thinking, I don't think he's going to be here in the draft by the 19th pick, but Jalen Waddle from Alabama, he's really good. Kadarius Toney from Florida, he's also pretty solid. My favorite of the 3 would be Rashad Bateman, because I feel like it's the most realistic one. He's the receiver from Minnesota, or they can. I just don't know. Like they have options now, and I think that with him signed, I think they could probably draft a quarterback late in one of the later rounds and try to develop them. People have been throwing that out the book because like all the quarterbacks that are like really, really good are in the first round. But let's get a recency bias. Kyle Trask was a pretty good quarterback. He was in the Heisman running, and then he had an awful SEC championship performance. But in his defense, a lot of his dudes opted out the game so they can worry about the draft or just stay healthy for the next year and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, he looked bad because he's not playing with the pieces he's supposed to, and he played against Alabama, which is the best team in the country. So him looking bad is like, okay, like I can understand, like with context, I can understand that. I wouldn't mind if we wasted a second or a third round pick on a quarterback like Kyle Trask. Now, all the other quarterbacks like Kellen Mond from Texas A&M, I don't know if I would draft him later on. But like Kyle Trask I'll be okay with that. I think if we can get some young talent besides Heineke and Kyle Allen. I think Kyle Allen is going to be gone after this season. If we can keep another young quarterback on the roster, I'll be fine with it. I think if Ryan Fitzpatrick is here to stay here for 1 year, mentor the young guys, try to get them up and to make them play better when he's gone next season, because he's on a 1 year deal. I'm okay with that role of his, but I don't like this narrative that he's going to bring my team to the promised land because you're going to get my hopes up. You're giving him expectations, and when expectations are laid out for this man, he does not show up, and that's the issue. He does with expectations. When we don't expect anything from him, that's when Fitz magic happens. You know what I'm saying? That's when all that great stuff happens. But once we like, oh, he's playing well, let's give him expectations. He just crumbles. He falls apart. And that's why I'm not sold on this pick. I'm not sold on this signing. I'm holding back. I'm indifferent. Everything they do from here on out will make me feel a certain way about the signing. But as of right now, I'm fairly indifferent.
Look, I want to bring up two things. For one, you are severely underrating your team. And two, let's be real. You guys should be trying to compete for as long as Chase Young is on his rookie contract. Because once that's done, he's going to be like one of the highest paid edges in the league, defensive edge, DEs in the league. And that's going to eat up a lot of your cap and eat up a lot of your team. So you guys need to be competing, I'd say start competing right now. Like, you guys do have young pieces you can build around, sure, but those young pieces will get paid eventually. Look what's happening to the Cowboys. They waited so long to really buy into fully competing, and then they paid Zeke, and then they paid Amari Cooper, and now they paid Dak, and now they have no money to pay anybody else, and they're probably not going to look super great unless Dak carries them like he did last year. Look, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm also going to say this. He's going to get an extension, a 1-year extension at the end of the year. I guarantee it. He's going to perform very good with all these weapons. And I think you're underrating how good your defense is, because your offense was downright horrendous last year. It hurt me physically to watch your guys' games. The only solace I got out of it was that Antonio Gibson was on my fantasy team, and anytime he caught the ball or got a run, I was like, yes, finally. That's the only enjoyment I had watching your guys' offense. No offense. But Ryan Fitzpatrick will bring electricity to this offense. He'll bring energy, and that's something you guys don't have and haven't had since Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke was another guy who brought energy, and you saw what that offense can do when they have a little bit of energy. They can actually be somewhat good, and you guys took the Super Bowl winning team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You guys took that game close down to the fourth quarter. You guys had a chance to win that game. I think you are severely underrating how your team is and how you guys have been playing. And I think the offensive line will get better. I think that's also a reps thing. I think they need more reps together. Obviously, losing Trent Williams was kind of a big, when you lose one big guy on the offensive line, that kind of really affects everybody else. You kind of have to plug and play certain guys in. Kind of the same thing kind of happened with the Ravens this past offseason. Not too concerned about your offensive line. It would do you nice to maybe grab somebody in the draft. But I think it'll be serviceable enough. All I'm saying is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have a career year, and he's going to lead all the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not underrating our defense. This is my thing. Our defensive line is elite. All right, that's top 5 in the NFL. Our linebacking core, it can use some work, but it's okay. Our secondary, questionable. It's like the further you go back in our defense, the weaker it gets. It got exposed in the Buccaneers game, Ronald Darby looked like burnt toast. He looked like the Eagles Ronald Darby, I remember, Jimmy Moreland led up some touchdowns also in the Buccaneers game. It's like, this is my concern. Like, if they can, like I said, if they can move in pieces with the linebacker position and cornerback position, I'll feel more confident about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because at least I know, dang, if he doesn't do well in offense, at least I know my defense can do well. Maybe they can create some, some momentum so the offense can roll off that. And I'll give you this. He rolls off momentum very well. He's one of those people. He's an energy player. I like him. I like him in that sense. But to put my hopes, my expectations into him, knowing the history of this player, I can't do that just yet. I gotta see what they're gonna do to put more weapons around him on the offense, and what they're gonna do to put more weapons on defense to make sure, they can do damage control. Whatever they can do on the three positions I said, wide receiver, linebacker, a cornerback, then we'll see. Then we'll start talking.
Look, all I'm saying is that I guarantee you Logan Thomas is going to break out because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Terry McLaurin's going to have the best year of his career because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. You guys finally have a quarterback who likes to pass. So,
Yeah.
And you guys have actually decent receivers. So I'm just saying, like, I really don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be. I don't think it's going to be. Obviously, I'm not a fan, so I'm just looking for like the most enjoyable game possible. And so I will say I will definitely tune in to a lot more football team games this year than I did last year. I definitely will because of Ryan Fitz magic.
This is the last thing I'll say on this matter. I'll say this. You believe in his passing ability. Let's just hope offensive coordinator Scott Turner believes in his passing ability as much as you do. Because if that's the case, then we'll see him air the ball a lot more, which the team can do. The team has capable deep threats. They just haven't utilized them to the fullest. So if he wants to air out the ball, I'm for it. On that note, we'll see.
I agree with you there. A lot of it does depend on the offensive coordinator, but they'll find a way to make it work, man. They'll find a way to.
Let's just hope.
Way to make you eat your crow, man. Ryan Fitzpatrick will demolish you. All right. But we spent a lot of time on this. Let's jump to the other things we have on the show today. So this is a little bit of old news, but we do want to cover it because it has implications for the future of this team. Aaron Jones signed a 4-year, $48 million deal with the Green Bay Packers. Now, the guarantee is only about $9.5 million a year, but incentives can take him up to 12. I don't know what those incentives are necessarily, but that's what's been reported so far. Was this signing a mistake?
Everyone's been very down about running backs and big contracts due to people like Zeke, Ty Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, and David Johnson. But I think I'm okay with this. Let's think about the flip side. Like Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, they're playing on fairly decent sized contracts and playing well. I think he's currently tied for the sixth highest paid running back next to Joe Mixon, who I think shouldn't even be in that conversation of highly paid running backs, in my opinion. I like Joe Mixon, but maybe the Bengals as a whole is a little rough. But I think, Aaron Jones is probably the fourth most important piece on that offense, behind Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and David Bakari. But, he's effective. He can kind of do it all. He's kind of their balanced running back. He can run. He can catch the ball. This past season, he was the fourth in rushing yards for the season, and he only played 14 games. He was tied for first for 40-plus yard runs with I think he had 4 on the season, and he was tied with Derrick Henry. There was another stat I saw that since 2019, Jones has had 30 scrimmage touchdowns. Only Derrick Henry, who has 35, had more. So he's earned his money. Like his rushing yards have improved every single season as well. This to me is like having him back. It helps keep them as contenders. I think them jumping over to Dylan would be kind of concerning. Dylan's not a bad running back, but he's no Aaron Jones. He's the power back. Aaron Jones is the balance back. But my thing is, I was concerned with the fact that they are going to have to let go of Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams was more of their screen back. It's, running back by committee has been kind of the new NFL we've seen. We've seen a lot of that happen with a lot of teams. Like I said, Aaron Jones was the balance back. Williams would be the screen back. And Dillon was the power back. But now without their screen back, it does kind of hurt the team unless Aaron Jones is willing to pick up all those passes and catch them all, which can be also another concern. Has been fairly healthy for our running back. Let's just hope he can stay healthy with this big contract weighing over his head. I'm fine with this. I'm okay with this. It's not the worst contract. We've seen bigger contracts. We've seen worse contracts. I think Zeke arguably has one of the worst contracts in the NFL right now, especially as a running back. But 4 years, 48 million. It could have been worse. That's all I'll say.
I'll agree that it could have been worse. I think this was a mistake, straight up. Those three running backs you mentioned, they're like the game changer running backs. Who were they again? Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, those are ones I think are playing on a good contract.
So the ones that are worth their contract, they're
worth their
massive deals. Okay. How many of them have rings?
Don't use this against me. Don't use it against me.
Running backs are great in the regular season. They will bring you a lot of wins in the regular season, but running backs bring wins, not rings in today's NFL. Let's be real. Today's NFL, it's the quarterbacks that bring you rings and wins as well. But, I think a lot of this, I just think that 9.5 mil a year that's guaranteed, they could have spent that on maybe grabbing another offensive lineman for depth, grabbing some dudes for their secondary, for their pass rush, just to stop the run. They could have used this money in a much better way. Aaron Jones is not a pressing need. He's not a pressing concern for their offense, in my opinion. When you look at, just most running backs in general, a lot of them kind of are replacement level. You could just kind of draft a running back and you'd be okay. I really question why they drafted AJ Dillon in the first place. If in the second round, if he's just going to be a backup for his entire career, at least that's what it kind of seems like, or until they have to pay him, which they're going to have to pay him as well eventually, or let him go. And then that's just going to be kind of a waste. I don't want them to waste the AJ Dillon pick. I say screw it, just make him the lead back. You drafted him second in the second round when you could have drafted any other of your needs. They have some holes they need to fill that they didn't fill. And this is taking up a good bit of money. Now, Aaron Jones is a very good running back. I'd say he's probably around top 5 to maybe top 7 running back in the league right now. But let's be real. Paying running backs does not work out in today's NFL. Paying running backs just does not work out. Now, you're right. This could have been way worse. This could have been a massive deal, like along the lines of Kamara or somebody like Zeke. This could have been way, way, way worse. I'm not saying it's going to make or break the Packers, but this is just kind of a sign of, the management they don't seem like they're on the same page. Why would you draft a running back in the second round just for him to be a backup? Look at James Robinson. He was undrafted, became the starter, and kind of dominated in his rookie season. He was undrafted. You didn't even need to spend draft capital to get you don't even need to really spend much draft capital to get an effective running back. So why would they drop a whole second rounder when their team had so many more needs, including wide receiver? They could always use more wide receiver depth. Why would they spend it on AJ Dillon if they're just going to pay Aaron Jones? If they didn't draft AJ Dillon, I wouldn't have been this, I wouldn't care as much about this. But the fact that they wasted that second round pick on a backup when they had a lot of other holes to fill, and then now they pay Aaron Jones, to a 4-year deal, which is going to be obviously well beyond a year after AJ Dillon's deal is up. So it's just confusing. I feel like the free agency part of the management isn't lining up with the drafting part of the management. I don't understand what's really going on. Uh, I'm concerned about this Packers team, man. I don't think this makes them any more of a contender or any less of a contender. I mean, when you get down in big games, especially if you get down in playoffs, you're not going to be running the ball. So, in that sense, running backs can only really do so much. They're only really as effective in the playoffs when you are tied or when you are up. That's when a good running back kind of earns his money in the playoffs. But when you're down, they can't be running with Aaron Jones every other possession if they're down in the playoffs. That's just not gonna. And considering how their defense has been playing, they're probably going to be down in the playoffs at some point. So I just think this was a misallocation of their limited budget, and I know they are trying to work to free up some space, but I just don't think that this is a very good deal for the Packers.
I mean, I agree. They definitely could have put some money more to, the linebacker position, their edge position, definitely anybody in the secondary. But you gotta think of it like with Aaron Jones there, he keeps that offense elite. He keeps that offense. I wouldn't say afloat, but he helps keep the pace of the offense. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is the main guy, and obviously, Devontae Adams is just almost as important, and obviously the offensive tackle McAree is obviously very important. But Aaron Jones, he brings that extra dimension. He keeps that team three-dimensional. They can kill you by the pass, and then you have Aaron Jones who can kill you by the run. And I feel like he's played a very big part in why they've been so successful. Because a lot of years for when Aaron Rodgers was, in Green Bay, he never really had a legitimate running back. And that also hurt them because sometimes they became very, too one-dimensional at times. And, if they become one-dimensional again this late in his career, they won't even see the NFC championship at this point. So I think this is a good signing to help, like I said, keep them afloat, help keep them contenders. Yes, they could have put their money to more important things, but also they still have a chance to draft decently. Now, their front office, when it comes to drafting, that's the people you have to keep your eye on because they're the ones who don't know what they're doing. I saw there was this comment on, I was looking at one of those Aaron Jones posts talking about his signing, and the comment was said they had a chance to draft Patrick Queen and Jeremy Chin, but instead they drafted Jordan Love and AJ Dillon. And I think that just goes to the front office not doing their job properly. The front office is not on the same page as Aaron Rodgers. The front office is on the same page as what the offense needs. They're not seeing eye to eye. They're not understanding what they need to do. Aaron Jones is a pivotal piece. This is a good, a decent signing. Now, I don't want more running backs to get paid this money. I'm not saying this should, reset the market to, let's start paying, our running backs a lot of money. But I feel like if there's a running back that does deserve this kind of money, who's earned this money, quite frankly, I would say, I wouldn't even say deserve, he's earned this money, in my opinion. It's Aaron Jones. So, I can see why you're indifferent. I do agree that they could have spent it in other things, but this is a good signing to make sure they can keep what's already good about their team, afloat. And now they let go Aaron Jones. I don't know how good they would have. I don't know if they would have been a great offense coming into next season. This still keeps them as the great offense. And it's like, we know what this team can do with Aaron Jones, Adams, Rodgers. Let's keep it that way. What they need to do is just figure out what they can do, defensively. If they can draft or find ways to trade people and trade pieces in the draft or just draft properly, that would be very ideal. But like I said, with the front office, best of luck. Best of luck to Packers fans.
Look, I just want to say that Aaron Jones deserves this money and actually probably more. He's probably earned that much money. Genuinely, you're right. He is a very important part of their run game. He really cares their running game. But just speaking a lot like logistically from, a realistic perspective on front offices, on how to win, on how to build a winning culture, I genuinely think AJ Dillon could have brought a lot to the table this year if they believed in him and just made him the starter at running back. Um, I'm a believer in AJ Dillon. I think he could kind of be the next Aaron Jones, funny enough. But at the same time, it's I'm not sure if we're ever going to see that opportunity because Aaron Jones just got this deal. And I feel bad for AJ Dillon, and I feel bad for Packers fans because, like I said, I wouldn't be as upset about this if they hadn't drafted AJ Dillon. Why would you draft a running back in the second round if you're not going to start him eventually? That's just a complete waste of a pick. And AJ Dillon deserves better than that as well. I do believe he can be a very effective starting running back in this league one day. And
Well, my thing is this.
it could be as soon as next season. That's just what I think.
I was going to quickly interject that, yeah, I mean, my thing I would say is he's going to be the second string running back now that Jamal Williams is gone. I think what Dylan he'll have to do better as, catching the ball out of the backfield. I feel like both those two kind of have to pick up the slack that Williams did, because Williams was more, like I said, was more of their screen back. If he could add that dimension to his game, I think Dillon could definitely become a solid running back in the NFL. He'll probably get his chance to shine elsewhere, I'm assuming, down the line, especially with this big deal just signed to Aaron Jones. But I'm not trying to defend the pick of choosing a running back in the second round, but this is he's a good depth. He's good depth. Like, with Williams gone, they're still not going to be in too much trouble, offensively. I just think that, they could have done a better job drafting, and could have done a better job in general with their off seasons and how they spend their money and all that stuff. Because the front office are the people hurting this team the most. It's not the coaching, it's not the personnel, it's the people who are trying to put the personnel and put all this together. They're not doing a good job, making this make sense.
I agree.
Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I think the whole team, this team has the talent to win rings. It's the front office is not pushing the envelope. Their mindset is not about winning. I'm convinced their mindset is not about winning. I don't know what their mindset is on, to be honest, at this point. But I'm not going to put fault like Aaron Jones. He has no control over who they draft. I'm not going to put any fault on, him at all. It's just all down to the front office. And for them signing Aaron Jones, that was a priority. I'll say that was a priority this season, off season. And I think he did a good job prioritizing that. Hopefully they can find some way to reconstruct some more contracts. You were talking about how they were reconstructing. I think they were reconstructing Preston Smith's and a couple others. So hopefully they can do that and, furthermore, because I know they're not in the best cap space. But, Aaron Jones, he did what he had to do to get his bag. So, let's just hope that he continues, and let's just hope he can add to the passing game and add to this team and just, push this team past the NFC Championship and into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I wish nothing but the best for Aaron Jones. He 100%, he's earned his money. I have nothing bad to say at all about Aaron Jones. But it does feel like you're right. The Packers front office is just not. They're not on the same page. I feel like they don't have a plan for what they're going to do for how they can build a winning culture. They're just kind of taking it like one move at a time, which isn't really the way to go. It just feels like they're run by a Madden AI. Like,
my biggest thing with them is they struck gold with Aaron Rodgers way back when. They think they can do it again with Jordan Love, but I just think they're tripping this time.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't they busted on most of their first round picks?
They're not the strongest with their first round picks. They make most of their best talent out of the first round.
That's what I'm saying. I just feel like a lot of their players or a lot of the people they've drafted, especially in the first round. The first round is where you kind of should be hitting. That's the place you need to hit the most, because those are the places that have potential future stars in the league. Most, at least, like, has the highest chance.
That's the expectation.
Yes, and the fact that they just missed out on so many first round picks, a lot of them are out of the league now completely. It just kind of shows that, like, they need a change in that front office in some way. They need somebody to come in there with a plan and say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to win. And it all kind of starts with this. I remember there was a lot of speculation about Aaron Jones just straight up not coming back to the Packers. And this kind of caught me off guard, and it caught one of my Packers friends off guard as well. Just because everyone kind of assumed, like, yeah, they're probably not going to pay him. Like, he's probably gone. That's kind of what winning franchises do. They cycle through their running backs. But then they paid him, and everyone was like, yo, like, I don't know about this. And then when they saw the $12 million a year, they're like, yo, I really don't know about this. So we'll see. We'll see in this season, in these upcoming seasons, how it ends up. But let's jump to something really quick. Just kind of want to cover it. Should the Chiefs be concerned about their offensive line? Because they did cut their starting tackles, Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. And they did sign Joe Thuney, but he's an interior lineman. So they're going to have to kick somebody out to tackle. And I am a little concerned about, what might end up there. Now, if they obviously spend draft capital on offensive linemen, which I am pretty sure they will, I'd say it's a very good bet you will see a tackle being drafted by the Chiefs in the first round. It's not as bad of a move, but at the same time, like, in that Super Bowl, that line was just horrible, and it was not because of Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz. So, the fact that they cut those guys and then also just signed another guard, it's like, okay, like you kind of took one step back and then one step forward. Like, you didn't really improve that much, or it's more like two steps back and one step forward, because you kind of just cut two really good linemen. Even though they are getting up there in age, they're still very effective linemen. And then you kind of signed a guy who's also he's a very good guard, I believe. And he's very good. Joe Thuney was one of the top prospects on the offensive line this year in terms of free agency. But, it's just, they need a tackle. they really need a tackle, because he's not a tackle.
Yeah, my thing is with this, I wouldn't be too concerned. I did a little more research. At first, when I heard about it, I was like, this is crazy. I saw the stat saying that with Mahomes with Eric Fisher, he was 40. His record was 40-6. Without Eric Fisher, he was 4-4. That's very significant, but it's also a small dose of without Eric Fisher, so it's kind of hard to say. It's not like he played like 20 games without him and then like 20 games with him. But also other context with it, because context is always needed in sports. Fisher's coming off a ruptured Achilles. He ruptured Achilles actually in the AFC Championship against the Bills. And I think Schwartz had back surgery in the offseason, early in the offseason. So, and they're already, like you said, they're both aging. Schwartz is 31 going on to 32, and Fisher's already 30. Thuney, the guard they signed, is 28. So they did, go younger. I think that's their main priority, is going younger. Looking at their cap situation, I think prior to the cuts, they said they were actually 21 million over cap space in the new league. And, cutting those two saved them 18 mil. Cutting two 18 guards, it seems crazy on paper, but thinking about the direction it seems like they're trying to go, I think that it's, drafting and going younger now while they're still out in the chance to win, it could work out in their favor. Now, another thing they had to do also was reconstruct some of Patrick Mahomes' contract to help, bring in obviously Thuney, who cost him a lot of money for future years. I think Mahomes' contract is something that should be of concern down the line, because they're going to probably have to reconstructing it every single year to keep people around, because this is such a talented team. If they fall out of the championship picture, people are going to want their money to stay. Everyone's taking kind of that championship, that Super Bowl discount. When you're just a playoff team, you're not a Super Bowl team anymore. that discount is out the window. People are going to want their bag. So that's something that's the thing that concerns me the most about the Chiefs down the line, because they do have 7 years with Mahomes, which is great for them. They hold on to Mahomes for that long, but cap space wise, that's going to be a concern going down the line. But I'm not saying Mahomes is overpaid. I like the contract he got. I just think that if they're trying to win, people should be more willing to make cuts, cough, like Brady did, so you can consistently stay in the championship picture and consistently bring talent to be in the picture. But looking at this draft, this is not. It makes them getting cut a little bit more understandable, because looking at this draft, if they're going in the direction of drafting a tackle or even a guard, and trying to move them to tackle, this is probably the best year to do it, or one of the better years to do it. Though the interior linemen aren't as good as tackles this year, the draft class of offensive linemen are projected to be stronger than last year's. So I think them drafting a tackle, which is more important to them than a guard, obviously, of course, it would be the most ideal thing. I can see that tackle from Notre Dame being drafted by them, Eschenberg, but I don't know. I don't know if I should be concerned just yet. I think the signing of Thuney did comfort a lot of the Chiefs fans, as he is arguably one of the best offensive guards in the NFL right now. But I guess my answer would be I'm not concerned just yet. I think that with the draft coming around and free agency, I think that was it. Free agency, unless you're gonna do little 1-year deals, or longer deals for shorter or for less amount of money. I think cap wise, I don't think they can afford to make too many more moves. So this is all draft oriented stuff now. They're gonna do most of their drafting and most of their drafting for tackles and all that stuff. That's going to be all done to the draft, and it's going to be a lot of depth drafting as well. So it'd be interesting the direction they're taking. I'm surprised they're taking it this soon, because both of those guys were projected to come back and be healthy for next season. And they're both, when they played together, they were one of the best duos. So, to see them take this step this early, it was a bit shocking. But like I said, I wouldn't be concerned just yet.
Yeah, my concern is more short term, just in this upcoming season. I'm definitely concerned. Long term, I'm not that upset about it, but it is going to be very hard to replace an Eric Fisher type talent at tackle. So they're going to have to do a lot of good drafting. That's going to be the key for them winning future Super Bowls. Just how good are they going to draft? But I also do want to mention that. What was I going to say? What were you saying a little bit earlier? Right before you kind of talked about the young players.
Oh, before I talk about the draft, I'm talking about the Super Bowl discount.
Yeah. You're right. So, their players aren't going to get a discount double check or none of that. Okay, they're like I was saying, they are going to have to draft in order to get more talent, because everyone's going to be paid at that point. They're going to have to rely on the salary cap going up, and all that stuff. But there's also a little bit of breaking news. I'm not sure if you've seen this or not.
Not yet.
Okay, so this is actually has to do with the football team. So the Washington football team has just agreed to a deal with the Bengals cornerback William Jackson. And
yes.
Do you want to hear the money amount?
Oh my gosh, is this a lot?
It's $42 million with 26 guaranteed. 3 years.
I mean, they paid Kendall Fuller similar to that kind of money. We do need a corner. This is a good signing. I think, like I said, this was one of the positions they need to address. Cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver. They touched on cornerback. This is. I think William Jackson was one of the better corners this past season. Even though the Bengals, you said it was the Bengals for corner, right?
Yep.
Even the Bengals were pretty rough. This is happening really on the fly, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's better. I think this is a better signing than I expected. I did not expect us to drop too much money this offseason, especially on. I mean, I guess when it comes to the corner position, you really do have to put a little bit more money out than per se for a linebacker, or especially a. Yeah, you could put receivers probably get a lot of decent amount of money, but this is I'm surprised. I'm glad they wanted to address this. You know, with Ronald Darby being out and leaving, this was something they had to kind of handle immediately. He is 28, so he is on the older side for corners, but you know, I like this. I do like this signing. It's very surprised that they put this much money out because Washington always seems very timid. And back in the day, they had a very big history of overpaying a lot of people. The first thing that comes to mind, Albert Hainsworth, and was arguably one of the worst NFL contracts in history. But this was a decent amount of money for a good corner. I can't complain. I really cannot complain about this.
I think it's a pretty decent. I think it's a pretty decent deal. They're doing what you said that you wanted them to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
and like I was saying earlier, Ryan Fitzpatrick now has a pretty solid defense to back him up, and he's gonna let it fly if the offensive coordinator lets him. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited for the Washington football team next year. I will tell you that much. From an outsider looking in, I'm not even a fan of y'all, and I'm excited to see what you guys are gonna do. But let's
Yeah.
let's cover some other things that have happened. So Drew Brees retired. Thank you, Drew Brees, for all you've done. It's been awesome watch. I grew up watching Drew Brees. He was one of the first ever. He was a part of one of the first ever Super Bowls I ever watched as a kid. So shout out Drew Brees, and good luck for the rest of your life after football. They also gave Taysom Hill a crazy extension, which a lot of people actually are very confused at, but it's a very strange situation. So they gave Taysom Hill a 4-year, $140 million extension. And when it first came out that they did this, I remember everyone was flooding the comments with like, yo, this guy, like, why is he getting Mahomes money? Like, why is Taysom getting Mahomes level money? And if you look into the deal a little bit more, actually every single year of his contract is voidable, which means they can just completely cut him off and just not give him the money. Um, it's he only has about 12.5 million guaranteed. So what this actually is just it's finessing of the cap space. They are basically kicking the can down the road because I believe to start the season they had 90 million over the cap or something ridiculous like that, didn't they? So
They did.
they are looking desperately for every possible way to just cut down on any single cost they can. They let some dudes go. They've been restructuring like madmen. I mean, they are doing many gymnastics just to get under the cap. It's ridiculous. And this is just another one of those gymnastic things. The way that they were able to pull this off is that uh, because of COVID, I think Pat McAfee was talking about this. Because of COVID, they reached an agreement with the NFLPA, the Player Association, that they increased the amount of money that could be disparaged from year to year. So if you have let's say you have a $10 million contract over 5 years, or let's say over 2 years, you could have maybe 1 year you get 1 million and the next year you get 9 million. Like that they increase the disparity a lot from year to year. And so this kind of allowed the Saints to just go crazy with this contract. And I'm not sure if there's going to be any repercussions to this. Maybe eventually down the road, they're going to they've got to. And people have been saying this for the past 5 years, but they've got to pay for it at some point. If this was supposed to be the year they were supposed to pay for it because they were 90 million over the cap. So and still found a way to weasel them. Look, the Saints front office needs to be given an award for just how easily they are able to weasel themselves out of any type of cap situation. It's ridiculous. If I'm a front office like the Packers, I'm looking to just, or if I was the owner of the Packers, I would look to just wipe out the front office that I have and just bring in everybody from the Saints just to get their their salary cap managers. I just like they need to be paid a heck of a lot of money, man, because they're crazy with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was funny that every year is voidable. I feel like at first I kind of feel for Taysom Hill. They're playing with the man's money. I'm not a big Taysom Hill fan. I thought when I saw the extension at first on first sight, I was sick to my stomach. I was nauseous. I was like, this. There's no way a gadget player is gonna get paid this much money. But good on the Saints. The Saints are doing a very good job. Obviously, Taysom Hill is not going to be their road dog. They did re-sign Jameis Winston, and they do plan on having quarterback competition. But most people in the locker room are kind of vouching for Winston to kind of get the opportunity to play because Jameis Winston did throw the deepest pass for the Saints in the season, and that was in the Buccaneers game in the playoffs, which they lost. And Jameis Winston, with all these surgeries and things he had from like arm, hand, even eye surgery, maybe he can see the field better. Maybe he can throw the ball better now. So I think this would be a good way to revitalize his career. I think it'd be a great opportunity for him to, do a little bit more. I am not the most sure how they're going to handle some of the cuts they've made. They made a lot of cuts. And I mean, a lot of cuts. They did release Emmanuel Sanders. They released Kwan Alexander. They released a good amount of people. They just traded away Malcolm Brown today to the Jaguars. So I don't know if we'll see the same Saints team, the same dominant Saints team we saw last year on the defense side. Offense, they were kind of but with Jameis Winston, I think they could air it out a little bit more. Hopefully we'll see Michael Thomas run a deeper route than a slant. We'll see what they'll do even on the other sides of him as well, because I don't know who their other wide receivers. I think this extension, people are playing checkers, they're playing chess. Simple as that. So good for the Saints for pulling this finesse. I don't know what they're gonna do next, but good on them.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the Saints do what they do, man. I don't know what their future plans are. I mean, I know they've been debating between Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill at quarterback. I'd say as a pure quarterback, I'd say I'd probably rather have Jameis Winston. But we still kind of the jury's out on that. The jury's out on that.
Mm-hmm.
And they could always just draft a quarterback and completely throw off everybody's plans. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think they're going to use this year to kind of just gauge how good either of those dudes can be. If they don't feel like they can go forward with them, I think they will end up drafting a quarterback. But yeah, the Saints do what the Saints do. Allen Robinson got franchise tagged. I don't think this is that big of a deal. I don't think he's going to accept. I don't think he's going to sign the tag. So
yeah, he straight up liked the tweet. I think it was from Torrey Smith, or called correctly. He said the franchise tag sucks. And Allen Robinson got caught in 4K. They caught this man in 4K liking that tweet. And he went out and said he's not going to sign the franchise tag, which rightfully so. The dude deserves a long-term deal. The dude deserves to be on the winning team at this point. He needs to find a quarterback. His best quarterback he's played with and his whole playing, as long as I've heard of him, was Christian Hackenberg back in Penn State. And Christian Hackenberg went to be a hack in the NFL. So, he played with Blake Bortles and he played with Mitch Trubisky. And also, I guess, Nick Foles as well. None of these dudes have been it. This is not Philadelphia Nick Foles. This was Bears, and he was a bum. Let's be honest. Nick Foles was a bum later on in the season, as we saw. So, Allen Robinson not wanting to, sign the franchise tag, you can't even get mad at him. I'm surprised he came out and said that he wants to sign a long-term deal with a team, including the Bears. I wouldn't want to come back to the Bears organization. It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing anymore. They signed Andy Dalton to a 1 year, $10 million contract. It's with two, and also can go up to 13 years with incentives, with $3 million in incentives. And that was another head scratcher. The team just seems lost. The coaching seems lost. The only reason they're even keeping afloat is single-handedly because their defense. And Allen Robinson not wanting to, sign his franchise tag, good on him.
The Bears are the football team, but with a better defense and with a massive front office just conundrum, because they, like you said, they don't know. I feel like they don't really know what they're doing. They've been searching for a quarterback for so long. They thought they had their guy when they traded up for Mitch Trubisky. Didn't end up, which is arguably, looking back, one of the worst trades in the NFL as of late. Man, the Bears, look, this is what happens when you don't have a good quarterback. All right, this is what happens. You get stuck in this purgatory of, we're ready to compete, kind of, but we got nobody else we got no field manager to bring us these wins in the playoffs. Like I said, quarterbacks win rings. Jimmy G didn't, if he can't win a ring with that stacked Niners team, I don't think any bad quarterback's going to win with any type of, no matter how stacked the rest of the team is. This just, look, Allen Robinson, go get your money, man. Go do what you do. If you choose to remain on the Bears, man, God bless you. You're a stronger man than I am. That's kind of all I have to say about Allen Robinson.
Yeah, same, honestly.
Let's talk about something that's flying under the radar. I feel like people aren't talking about this enough. Bud Dupree left the Steelers and signed with the Tennessee Titans. I feel like this is a massive move, man. I feel like people are so just overlooking this. But you talked about in the previous podcast about how much of an impact Bud Dupree had on that Steelers pass rush. I mean, he was I believe he was double teamed more than TJ Watt.
Yeah, he was. And there was another thing. He said, like, when Bud Dupree was healthy and when he's active, team's pass rush never went under 3 sacks per game. So, this is a big hit to the Steelers pass rush, which was one of their most important parts of their defense. My thing is, the Steelers this offseason, they seem very lackluster right at the moment. Letting Bud Dupree go away was definitely a big hit. I feel like they have their priorities in the wrong place. I think them restructuring Big Ben's contract over re-signing Bud Dupree was it's pretty substantial. It kind of shows where their minds are at, and I feel like they should have done a better job to try to keep him. I can't get too mad at them because he probably did want a fair amount of money that I don't know if they have in their cap space either. But the Steelers, they concern me. Letting Bud Dupree go definitely was a big hit to them.
Yeah, I agree. This, they do still have TJ Watt, who's a fantastic edge rusher, but at the same time, now he's gonna be double teamed a lot more. And I really think, man, this is gonna hurt the Steelers pass rush a lot more than people are realizing, in my opinion. And this is gonna help the Titans a lot more because their pass rush was one of their weaknesses on their defense. And Bud Dupree could really come in there and kind of change the whole aspect of their defense just alone, in my opinion. I think Bud Dupree is very, very good, very underrated. And yeah, it's shocked me when I heard this because I thought the Steelers, I thought that one of their biggest priorities, was Bud Dupree. And I think it was said that, Bud Dupree was one of their biggest, was one of their 4 biggest
priorities.
Priorities to sign in free agency. And the fact that they just kind of lost him out to the Tennessee Titans, like, that's just, wow, like, that's not good. That's not good for the Steelers.
Yeah, my thing is Tennessee Titans let go of Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, so I was worried that they were going to just let a lot of other people go away. So them signing Bud Dupree did kind of revitalize their they're already their early off-season mistakes. So good on the Titans part, but man, the Steelers, like you were saying, like Bud Dupree did make TJ Watt as good as he was and as potent as he was because his presence. Because even when we saw when Bud Dupree went out afterwards, the team's stats dropped. The pass rush, the sacks they had per game dropped under 3, which is like I said, never happens with Bud Dupree. So there's already signs of what's to come if you watch the ending of their season. So man, the Steelers really got to do something to kind of make up for this mistake, this detrimental mistake.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and end the show off with our final little thing. Who's taken the biggest L so far in free agency?
I know it's very early on, and you never know if this team that I'm about to name will make the moves that need to make to keep certain individuals happy. And I guess my team with the biggest L, look at the camera, my team with the biggest L right now, it's got to be the Seahawks. It's got to be the Seahawks. The Seahawks, their franchise quarterback came out and literally said, the biggest issue team is I need protection. I need help on the offensive line. And man, there's been so many offensive linemen that have been released this offseason, from Rodney Hudson to the two from the Chiefs, even, a lot of people walked. A lot of the linemen walked. And there were so many in the market, but they're in such a bad cap space. They have such little cap space. I guess I can see why. I can give a little bit of a break, but they have been doing a little bit more to try to make some cap space for, I guess, something eventually. They let their running back Carlos Hyde walk, who was a decent running back. He's a very solid backup running back. They let Shaquille Griffin go, who was their number one cornerback. They really don't have one. They did sign a cornerback today, Witherspoon from the 49ers, but in my opinion, they really haven't found their number one corner just yet, which that's probably their second biggest problem besides offensive line. And we've seen teams with not the greatest cap space make moves to get linemen, such as the Ravens, the Chiefs. These teams made an effort to get offensive linemen because they realized those are things that their team needs. There's still some good offensive linemen, like you were saying earlier in the show, Trent Williams, and there's a couple other obviously out there, but Seattle's doing a really bad job in they're not being as aggressive as they need to be. They're too nonchalant. They're too easygoing. They just think that everything's going to just come to them. I don't even know if Chris Carson will come back to their team, quite frankly, and he was their starting running back. So, and remember, Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. He wants to run the ball this season. So, I don't know what he has in mind. I don't know what the front office has in mind. I think this, for me, if I was Russell Wilson, I'd be fuming by how inactive the team has been to try to bring more pieces, try to do more, to restructure contracts. They're not doing their best. They're not trying. It seems like they're very laid back. I keep saying, and it's getting to a point where if I was Russell Wilson, maybe you really do have to consider a change of scenery, just to keep yourself safe, in a better situation. And this is getting to a point where if I was him, I would definitely start weighing my options a little bit more. So I think with all that said, that my opinion, they just took the biggest L so far.
Yeah, what concerns me about the Seahawks is now also they are looking to probably pay Chris Carson, which, depending on how big that contract is gonna be a mistake. And like they also drafted DJ Dallas. So, if they pull up Packers and extend Chris Carson on a somewhat big deal, it's just going to be another Packers situation where, like, do you not believe the guy you drafted? Like, do you not believe in him? Like, why did you draft him then if you're not going to eventually give him a chance to be the starter? It's just And DJ Dallas did have some very solid games when Chris Carson was injured. He kind of did prove that he has the potential to do this. He has the potential to kind of hit Chris Carson's level, if not maybe even surpass it one day. He's younger, he has more potential. I just think that, if they re-sign Chris Carson and it's a sizable deal, I think Russell Wilson's going to be gone after next season. I do think in the next offseason, I think it's just time. I think Russell Wilson's going to ask to move on, uh, especially if they don't find any type of success in the postseason, or if they even miss it, because like their division is still pretty stacked.
They're in the best division in football,
Yeah,
and that's my take. They're the best division of football.
I
The NFC
agree.
West is the best.
I agree. If the Bengals weren't the Bengals, I'd say the AFC North, but they are the Bengals, so
Yeah.
I will agree that the division Seahawks are in is definitely the best in the whole league right now, and to not make serious attempts to address their line and even their secondary to let a cornerback go, it's ridiculous. They need to make these improvements, and they're just not doing it. And you're right, it doesn't feel like they're really even trying, but we'll see. It's still early in free agency, but look at what Bill Belichick did in just like the first 2 days. Like he completely changed his team just by all these signings. It feels like the Seahawks aren't attacking free agency with that level of aggression they need to, because they have a lot of talent that they can possibly win a ring with, but they're not really. It feels like they don't really believe in it. It feels like they just kind of want to just run the entire game, like we've been saying. Like they just want to run every single possession if they can. And so if they do re-sign Chris Carson, I'm going to be very disappointed in this team. And Russell Wilson's probably gone. I think that's going to be kind of, that's going to lead to the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I think Russell Wilson will eventually request out, and we'll see if he really gets out. It depends on the kind of what happens with this Deshaun Watson situation. He's in a very precarious situation where, what happens with Deshaun Watson will influence the rest of the league, most likely for like, to the league's end, in terms of just player empowerment, because he requested out. If he does get out and he does get his way, that's going to inspire Russell Wilson to do the same, probably. And maybe other quarterbacks, maybe eventually Joe Burrow, because the Bengals have also not been having a great free agency. They just haven't signed anyone of note lately. And they were one of my heavy considerations to put here. But at the same time, I didn't have any expectations for the Bengals. The Bengals are the Bengals, the Bungles. They don't even have an indoor practice facility, so I
Yeah.
expected them to have a bad free agency. But a team that I expected to do better, that is just taking a big L right now, is the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost their starting right tackle. He left to, I forgot exactly what team it was. Let me double check. With the Chargers. He left for the Chargers, and they signed a couple of dudes to kind of fill the space, but it's not, they're not going to, I feel like they're not going to be as effective, in my opinion. And like he started 13 games last year for the Steelers, like he's just, it sucks for them to lose one of their offensive line talents, and especially on an aging line like they have. They have kind of an old line that's really getting up there. Same with Big Ben. He's also getting up there. And he's one of the most immobile quarterbacks in the league. So you need a line to protect him. Otherwise, like, he's done. So the fact that they let one of those guys go, who I believe he was also one of the 4 people that they wanted to re-sign, which they just end up not getting to do. They let him go. That's going to really impact Big Ben and the offense in general, in my opinion. But it's not going to be as impactful as losing Bud Dupree. We talked about it earlier. Bud Dupree is such an unsung hero of that defensive line. He holds them down, man. Like he genuinely, he generates so many double teams that allow TJ Watt to just flourish on the edge. He's a big part of their pass rush, big part of their defense. And he's gone for nothing. For nothing. Oh, that's also something I did want to bring up with the Chiefs. Uh, they also could have traded Eric Fisher. I feel like they could have gotten some type of deal for him. Maybe even if it's like a fifth rounder. I don't know. I feel like I feel like they made those cuts just to kind of sign Thuney as fast as possible. But at the same time, if they could have gotten something for Schwartz. They could have gotten something for Fisher. I'm not too upset about that, like I said, but it is what it is. But the Steelers, man, they lost Bud Dupree for nothing, and that's gonna hurt them a lot. They probably are gonna get a comp pick in the draft, but at the same time, man, that comp pick is not gonna measure up to Bud Dupree.
Not at all.
Most likely, he is not gonna measure up.
Yeah. Also, looking into their offseason, how it started off, actually, I think it was Maurice Pouncey, their starting center. He also retired. So their O line is slowly getting gutted right under their noses. As much as I can care less about him as, outside of football, Juju Smith Schuster, they might lose out on him. There's been speculation that he's not even going to come back. And, he's not, in my opinion, he's not a receiver number one, but he's a solid receiver number two. And if they lose out on him, you have Dante Johnson, who literally drops. He can get his catches in, but he also led the NFL in drops, if I recall correctly. Obviously, I guess I would look to really have Chase Claypool be the guy, but it's just they're losing so much, and they're losing pieces that made them good. Like I said, as much as I can care less about Juju Smith outside of football, he was solid. He was solid on the field at times. You know, I just feel like they really aren't pushing the needle. They've been there's a lot of false what's the word promises, empty promises. A lot of things to keep saying like, oh, we're prioritizing this person, this person. The only how I've seen it is they prioritize Big Ben so far. Other than that, everything kind of fell to the ladder. I get it. Big Ben's your guy. That's a ride and die. That's your still your franchise quarterback, but they could do better than this. They could do better than this. And setting Dwayne Haskins as your backup. I mean, that's as a Washington football fan, I wish you the best of luck with that. They haven't really done anything to impress me. There's nothing that's been substantial. They're losing out, like I said, on a lot of players. Really what they need to do is, try to get a running back. At this point, at least try to get a running back in this. I'm not thinking Chris Carson, but just anybody, any running back in particular. They just need somebody that's not James Conner, who gets hurt and when he plays gets like 10, 20, 30 yards, maybe if he's lucky. He's a little rough. But they just need a lot more to help, I guess, Big Ben in these last few days of being a starting quarterback.
I feel like the Steelers I feel like they're kind of wasting a year. And this is in all fairness to Big Ben. But let's be real, we kind of saw like the best of what he could do last year, most likely. Like this is probably the end of Big Ben's career. This feels more like a farewell season than it does like a we're trying to compete season. Uh, Losing Bud Dupree, losing their starting right tackle, losing their center, it's a lot to lose. And what have they really gained besides? I mean, not besides getting Big Ben's deal restructured. Like, okay, uh, just in general, like I said, Big Ben just kind of feels like they're just sending off Big Ben, which rightfully, emotionally, sentimentally, that's the correct thing to do as just a human being. But when you're running a team logistically, like this team, like started the season like 11-0, they have a good shot to with better quarterback play, with a better running back, they have a shot to straight up win the Super Bowl. And they are not pushing on that. Like there's a lot of teams that I feel like need to be more aggressive. The Steelers are one of them. I feel like they need to be way more aggressive with their moves, and they just lost very key pieces. And this Steelers team might not win they're probably not going to win the division next year again. If Big Ben plays like he did last year, I don't think they're going to win the division again. Like they're what? Go ahead.
I know you're happy to say that as a Ravens fan, so I know there's a little bit of that. I think they play into the sentiment too much. They had to really get past it. The front office has to. I mean, think about when Peyton Manning broke his neck and when he had to, stay on the sideline. He was there most of the games, pacing around, helping, coaching like the talent around, and then they just traded him. You got to get rid of that sentiment. I mean, yeah, Peyton Manning went on to win, had played probably his best season. The Colts made a mistake, and he played his best season. And he won a ring, to kind of like a get you kind of like thing. But Big Ben, he's definitely past even like, okay, like we should rock with this guy, start this guy. In my opinion, he's I wouldn't call him washed. He's not that bad, but like this team needs to go in a different direction if they want to stay afloat in this AFC North. That's obviously the Browns keep getting better. The Ravens are going to keep getting better. The Bengals, you have to assume somewhere down the line they'll get better. But this team is just regression. That's all they're doing. We saw them to start regress near the end of the season. Once they lost to Washington, when they took their first loss of the season, they just regressed and regressed. And, I don't know what's to come. I don't know if this team will be over 500 at the rate they're going this all season. They have to, have to.
That's your bold take of that's your bold. Mine was
I don't know.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Listen, Mike Tomlin has never been under 500 as a head coach of the Steelers. Kudos to him. I have a lot of respect for him. But this might be the season that they keep lacking. 8-9 is a very possible thing. And they're not doing much to replace the pieces they lost. And I don't know if they're trying to do it to the draft, which I did not see this team thinking about that. If you were thinking about that, you wouldn't have won that many games because you're further back pick, But this team has to be more aggressive. They have to make more reconstructions. They have to do what they can to help. Do what they can to, if you want to keep Big Ben in this position, do what you can to put pieces around him to keep him afloat. Get a running back. Because this team has not had since I would say after Le'Veon left, James Conner played one good year, and then after that, their running game has been questionable. If they can at least get a running back going, that would take a lot of pressure off Big Ben. Obviously, they have to rebuild their offensive line as well. But I don't know if that's their plan. Like you were saying, and why you gave them this L, I don't see what their vision is either. And when you don't see a team's vision, it's concerning. A lot of teams, it's very obvious what their visions are, but for how I see the Seahawks and the Steelers, their vision, I don't see it. And I'm concerned. And if you're a fan of either one of those teams, you should be slightly concerned as well, especially if you're a Seahawks fan. You should be sweating. All right. But I'm concerned for the Pittsburgh. If they don't do anything if they don't make any real big signings, if they can't even at least sign back Juju Smith-Schuster, I'd be concerned. I just would be concerned.
I'm actually more concerned that they do re-sign Juju, and this is why. I think Juju's asking for a lot of money. A lot of money. He wants to be paid. And Juju, go out there, get your money, man. That's I'll always root for a player. I'll always root for a player to get their money. But the Steelers, if they sign him to a big deal, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to hurt their team just as much as losing their right tackle and losing their center. It's going to hurt them just as much because it's so much cap to tie up to just a number two who is still inconsistent. Let's be real. He's solid.
He is.
Inconsistent. And especially without a good quarterback to really throw it to. They need to, in this draft, either draft a running back or draft a quarterback. I don't see, I don't see a future for this team unless they get a young quarterback. And if they think Dwayne Haskins is gonna be that, God bless him. I hope he is. But realistically, like it's Dwayne Haskins. Like I don't think that he's really gonna. I don't think he's ever gonna reach like above average starting level on a possible championship contender. I it's very concerning. Steelers are very concerning. Good news for the Ravens. But at the same time, man, if I'm a Steelers fan, I am sweating. I am sweating right now. And the offseason still isn't over. It's still not done. So, a lot of teams could do whatever. They could go crazy with some trades or something. But, for now, from the first 2 days and on, or just from the first 2 days, the Steelers have been taking a big L. The Bengals take an L, but that's what the Bengals do. And
It's culture.
Yep, and you're right. The Seahawks have taken a big L as well.
Yeah, my thing with the Steelers, this is for me how I see the Steelers, the most ideal thing to do in the draft. First pick, if he's available, that pick, Najee Harris from Alabama. They need a running back. I think that's one of those explosive players that could help put the team back on at least a winning track. If they can't draft a running back of his quality or even get a running back of his quality, I just don't see it. I just don't know what to expect from this team.
I agree. And on that note, I think we should end it right here. Thank you all for for sticking around with us for another episode of the Speed You Sports Podcast. Once again, please like and share and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. We really appreciate it. And I've been Bert.
Trey as usual.
And we will catch you guys next time on the Speed Truth Sports Podcast.